Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is Deborah. I'm slipping an extract from a brand new podcast onto my feed because you will recognize Tom Salinsky from the credits and also from him chipping in to say we're running over from time to time. He is my husband and he is also the producer of The Guilty Feminist. He has a new pod wife, Abigoliah Schamaun. Many of you will know her from The Guilty Feminist. Look at this face. Look at this face. Flawless. The podcast is called All British Comedy Explained, and you'll hear Tom mansplain comedy to comedian Abigoliah Schamaun because it's British and she's American. So this is classic British comedy. Now, the two of them had an incredible opportunity to talk to Ben Elton, co-creator of The Young Ones, Blackadder, creator of Upstart Crow. They had a fascinating conversation about different approaches to stand-up comedy and about the working-class sitcom writers he most admires. This is just a short extract from a longer conversation. If you enjoy it, you want to hear the rest and other episodes, just search for All British Comedy Explained wherever you get your podcasts. Why not give it a follow, even if you don't listen to it every week? It really helps the podcast, helps other people find it. For now, here's Tom, the producer of The Guilty Feminist, Abigoliah Schamaun, a regular co-host on The Guilty Feminist, and the one and only Ben Elton.
Yeah.
When you do your stand-up, you are, because I've lots of friends who are stand-ups, and I know this is something that varies quite a lot. There are some who will know the shape of the routine, but the exact choice of words will be a little bit different every time. They're slightly improvising around it. And there'll be others who will have not just memorized the words, but the performance will be basically identical every single time. And everyone finds their own place on that continuum. The impression I get is
I think most comics are closer to the latter, i.e. if they're going to do a 60-day tour, the chances of it being largely significantly different each night. I think it'd be significantly different from the first night to the last night, but it's a series of Chinese whispers. I mean, my act, you will see the same thing the second night. I've written it very carefully. How do you feel about this, Abigoliah? I mean, do you go on stage and wing it sometimes? I certainly don't.
Well, actually, yeah, I was like, what is your process? Because you do a lot of script writing. So when I have an idea for a joke, right? So we're talking new material level. It's not finished yet. I will maybe write out the idea a bit and write bullet points, but I don't script out a first draft. I've never scripted out a first draft. I just
And
go
you'll go
by
on stage with that map, and that's all you've got.
Yeah, so I might have a couple of one-liners, or like I'll know the story and I'll tell the story and I'll find jokes within it and then I record it and it's not until I get to like draft 2 or 3 that I start to write it. And once I start to write it, which my last director for my last Edinburgh show is the first person to be like, you have to freaking write it as a script. And then that helps me line edit because that's when I pick up all of my repeats
but between
of words.
drafts 1, 2, and 3, you're doing it on stage. I mean, yeah, okay. So you've got the first map, you go on stage, you play around, you get a few good laughs. That seemed to work. Oh my God, that died. I didn't get that right. You come back off and then you work it on again and then I think that's perhaps quite a common way of, I think for young, working up material. That's definitely not how I work. I write a script I write it and I'm pretty clear where the jokes are the first time. Now, I'm not saying I always get it right, but it is definitely not made in performance. It's made in my head and then it's performed, and it does morph a bit and it does begin to change, mainly because I thought things get expanded. It's not that things drop out, just things get added and suddenly you've got a 3-hour show and you've got to start, killing your babies, etc. But no, I don't do warm-ups and work up material. I'll do half a dozen warm-ups to learn the material because it's a 2-hour monologue and it's all on the page, and I need to get it so that I can perform it really well. I need to have it really embedded in my head, and so that will be the warm-ups. But that's learning it, not working on it. I mean, you'll find a few things. Oh, it didn't work as well as I'd hoped, but on the whole, I've done it. I've done all the work before I get on stage, save learning it and performing it, which is a different thing. I'm interested in your method. Maybe I should try it.
Well, I'm interested in your method because, like, I think your method is more rare. I know George Carlin did that. I'm pretty sure Mike Birbiglia does that. But because you come from a background of playwrights, of writing dialogue, you know how to write yourself talking. If I start at script, oh boy, are there words that go on the page that I do not say in my real life. It
right.
becomes real flowery and literary. I get smart. I get a thesaurus. You know what I mean? I need to start with like just how I speak, and then I can
Okay.
make adjustments.
And in
But if
order
I,
to know how you speak, you need to hear yourself saying it. I
yeah,
get that. That's very. I think maybe you'll find. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you by some
yeah,
considerable point.
yeah, please teach
And
me.
maybe you'll find you're slowly but surely you'll come to be so familiar with your voice, you will find your material is better. You know, is closer to your voice when you start. I mean, I
Mm,
definitely know when I'm writing something, I know how I'm going to deliver it,
mhm,
and it, as I say, things come definitely. There's no doubt, you know, because you're writing, improvising onto the page, and sometimes you're on stage and further improvisation occurs. It's all an improvisation. Writing is an improvisation. I used to have this battle with this comedian. I talk about it in the book, actually. It's a funny thing. This comedian, Tony Allen, from the very early days of alternative comedy, he was in the original alternative cabaret in the 70s, going around hippie festivals. And he always hated how my act was the same all the time. It got a lot more
yeah,
laughs than his, because his was he was always just going on stage and free forming. You got a free form. And I never, you know, like you sat over and written it and learned it. That's not, it's free your mind, free form. And I never understood why there was sort of some kind of ethical superiority in making it up on stage as opposed to making it up in your bedroom on your little typewriter. I mean, I thought, well, it's
mhm,
all improvisation. At some point, you're making it up. Why is it so wrong for me to make it up earlier and then do a bit of work on it so it actually gets to be funny, as opposed to sort of desperately feeling and finding, you know? I think
yeah,
you probably have a compromise. You've done a lot of work. You've got a lot of good ideas. It's not like you're going on stage just to wing it and see what happens in the room, but you do want to discover the material within the material, I guess.
yeah,
I do a bit of that, but I mean, I guess it'd be interesting for me to compare the transcript of the tour I started with. I just did a huge long 150 dates, and the end, I think a lot of it would be very similar, except the bits that were cut, because it
Yeah.
started going like that. Yeah.
mhm,
People come and say, "Oh, I saw you twice," and I thought it was exactly the same. And I go, "For fuck's sake, well, you think I can make up 2 hours of your material every night?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
I
people don't
wanted
go to see We Will Rock You and say this is the same as it was when I saw it a month ago. I want my money back. But I think one of the reasons why people with stand-up in particular have that ethic about it's better if it's improvised is because one of the greatest gifts that a good comedian has is the ability to make something seem spontaneous. I think we want
mm,
to, as an audience, we want to buy into the illusion that this wonderful person on stage who's got all these incredibly funny ideas is just having a conversation with us. And the idea that it's been planned and written and rehearsed slightly
Of
takes the
course.
magic away from it.
I understand that. And I mean, you don't go on about the fact that you know, although you get a laugh, you can say, you know, that got a laugh last night or whatever.
Yes.
But I totally agree. I mean, I give the impression on stage that I'm not making it up as I go along, but that the ideas, but you see, that's not a lie. I am
Mm.
rediscovering the material each night with the audience. It really
mm,
isn't a deceit. In order to rediscover the arguments and land the ideas, the words are the same, but if I'd just said them by rote, I mean, with all the intonation, it's like with a bass player. My wife's a bass player, and there's a term for bass players being in the pocket. And basically, if two bass players appear to be playing exactly the same thing, but you know that one of them is kind of funky and groovy, and the other one, there's something wooden about it. And you can't tell what it is, because if you listen to the two, it seems to be they're both playing the same notes exactly the same way. But one of them's in the pocket and one of them isn't. Now, I have to be in the pocket with my material every night. And I think it is like a musician. You know, like a musician like Brian May or something, he's delivering basically the same solo from Bohemian Rhapsody. I saw him do it live only a few weeks ago. He came to the first night of an opening of We Will Rock You. And there he was, beautiful Brian May, playing this music. And he did do the same notes as are on the record. But, oh my God, it was so originally, you know, he added the odd little diddle here or there. And it was the same, but very different. And I think a good comic delivering the same material each night is exactly like a good musician playing the same song each night. You have to find the truth in it again. You have to find the pocket. You have to get into the pocket. You've got to find that funkiness, that rhythm, the glory of that melody. And if you sort of do it mechanically but brilliantly, audiences know. It just doesn't move them. And I think that's, for what it's worth, even though when I do 6 nights in a row and it's exactly the same every night, it's not exactly the same every night, because I'm rediscovering the ideas as I play it. Just as a musician is finding the tune again each night. I mean, it might sound poncy, but I'm trying to come up with a good way to describe the fact that yes, I do the same show every night, but it's a new show to me.
But I think you're right, because like your wife plays the bass, you play the audience. So like if you go on stage, this is how I see it, which is funny that you call it a pocket, because when it freaking hits, I call it the pocket. I didn't know that was a musical thing. But like what we're, if I may, what we're doing as stand-ups is like you're communicating to the audience, right? So when you're in the pocket, it's like throwing a ball back and forth. You give the material, they laugh, it comes back to you. If you go on stage and like robotically, even if you hit all the marks and the intonation and every time you cork your head like this, but you're not communicating, it doesn't feel as real as your wife communicates with her bass. Yeah.
Exactly. Audiences smell deceit. If you don't rediscover the genuine integrity and the passion of the idea like the first time you did it, then the audience will not be moved by it, no matter how much it's similar it sounds the first time you do it. And you're right. You're in a conversation with the audience, and their laughter is half of the dialogue. And you are instinctively playing, because obviously audiences are not crowds, they're a group of individuals, and obviously, you know, any 1,000 people is going to contain the same number of wankers and heroes, and you know, so they're similar each night, but they're also different. And it's that dialogue, it's that, as you say, playing the audience. So but for me, my modus operandi as a stand-up comedian is to write my routine and learn it, and then rediscover it by saying it like an actor going on and doing the to be, you know, Shakespeare to be monologue. They can't just do it. They've got to re-find it, or the audience won't be moved by it. And that's exactly the same, I think, with stand-up. Yes, it's the same as it was last night, but actually it's completely different.
Ben, we should let you go quite soon, but I've just got 2 questions I want to finish on.
Before you ask your questions, I have one very important question for you, Ben. Okay,
please.
Shag, marry, kill. Rick, Neil, or Vivian? Go.
Hang on, there's no or. You mean I've got to do something to all of them?
Yeah. Shag, marry, kill, Rick, Neil, and Vivian. You're right.
Oh, well,
hello, Mr. Writer.
As long as we can say the characters, not the actors, because they're all.
Oh no! Not your friends and your colleagues. That's inappropriate. We're going here.
I guess they used to say of the young ones that it was one critic, and it got very popular, that it was a nuclear family. It wasn't as a groundbreaking, because really the 4 of them were the sort of 70s young ones family. And the idea was that Mike was the father, Neil was the mother, Aid was the son, and Rick was the daughter. That was how some critic put it, that they reflected the sort of tropes. So the mother is kind of like always worrying about food and like principles and things. Mike's the dad. That's obvious because it was a boring character. Vic's, like women often were in sitcoms, kind of petulant and vain, and Aid is like a bloke, and like blokes were in, so in that respect, I guess I'll marry Neil, I'll Sharon, I'll kill Vivian. I mean, some critic's idea of what the young one's family was.
Lovely.
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it.
All right,
Tom, to your more worthy questions.
I'm taking Abigoliah on this tour of British comedy, one show at a time. We don't need anyone to tell us that we need to be watching things like Blackadder. The Young Ones was the second show that we watched. Is there anything else that you think we should be watching that we might have overlooked? And you are allowed to pick your own stuff.
Oh, well, if you're talking about from my own work, then all the rest of it. I think you should look at The Thin Blue Line, which was a tribute to studio ensemble sitcoms. And I think you should look at Upstart Crow, which I think is my my best work. I love Upstart Crow with a passion because I loved everything about researching it, writing it, and hearing David and Lisa and that incredible cast deliver. I felt, because I did it in my old age, well, not old age, but late middle, I was much less anxious, much less, it was just fun to do. I loved Crow. If you're talking about other shows, I mean, I'm afraid I have to dig deep. I have to go back. I mean, I think you should look at, I mentioned Till Death Us Depart as one of the most extraordinary. To think that was on mainstream BBC One, I mean, a deconstruction of a racist, of a sort of MAGA type, really. But nonetheless, sympathetically done. Johnny Spate, interesting, you see, that there was so much working class input. I mean, you, Abigail, you'll be discovering that Britain is still cursed with a kind of class ethic. I mean, even after so many years, that kind of the snootiness and the snobbery still exists. And there really is a feeling of something being working class or middle class. And for me, the 60s sitcom was working class, written by working class people, both Galton and Simpson, Johnny Spate, Spike Milligan, and then in the 70s, and nothing wrong with middle class. I'm middle class. I mean, I'm not saying you should one or the other, but the gritty reality of British sitcom in the 60s really, the stuff that Pinter and all the angry, well, he was slightly later, but from John Osborne to Harold Pinter, there was this idea that these angry, brilliant left-ish young playwrights were exploring the awfulness of life in Britain. But actually, if you wanted them explored properly and you want to see it done with love and humor, as opposed to a kind of brittle nihilism, then I would look at 60s sitcoms, and in particular, I would look at Till Death Us Depart and Steptoe and Son.
We were actually talking, and when I say we, Tom, because he curates everything, of doing a season about class and just doing sitcoms like that. So that's really helpful.
That would be really interesting. I mean, as I say, I loved The Good Life, despite the fact that I kind of eviscerated it in a monologue I gave to Vivian in The Young Ones. But there's no doubt about it that in the 70s, BBC sitcom did become very, very cozy. The kind of Terry and June model, which could be very funny. But, it forsook any kind of social realism. And what's interesting about sitcom in the 60s and 50s, created by the post-war generation, created by people who'd either served or done national service, a kind of feeling, it was sort of Beveridge welfare state comedy. Slowly but surely, as we got away from life, got more comfortable, the people got more aspirational. Another great working class sitcom would be The Likely Lads, Clement and Lafreniere. I mean, I had some of your listeners will be thinking, oh, for God's sake, then stop talking about working class and middle class. But you can't not, in terms of British culture. It does play a part. It plays a part in terms of the critical establishment and in terms of commissioning. And I think the post-war, the post-war consensus, which ended really with Thatcher, I mean, the culture changed as well in terms of sitcom. Have a look at The Likely Lads, and the original Likely Lads in the 60s, and then the brilliant revival in the 70s, Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, which was about a couple of blokes, one of whom was aspirational and wanted to join the middle class. The other one didn't, or at least claimed he didn't. Have a look at The Likely Lads. Great comedy. And also Carla Lane's work. Look at The Liver Birds. If ever there was a sitcom which reflected its time, two working class women going it alone. I mean, Carla Lane, of course, the first great, the first female voice in comedy writing that I can remember, Have a look at The Liver Birds. You're dancing. You asking. I'm asking. I'm dancing.
And finally, we aren't making any money out of this podcast, not yet anyway. You haven't been offered a fee for appearing. So in lieu of that, what we suggest is that you recommend a charity that you support that you'd like our listeners to donate to.
Oh, what a lovely idea. That's a surprise. I didn't realize that. I certainly would have asked for a fee. This has been fun. Well, in that case, I have a number of charities which I support, and I'm going to name Scope, the charity, biggest disability charity and campaigning group. Very, very, very big on campaigning. I am proud to be a patron of Scope. I've been a part of their world since I wrote my novel Gridlock in 1990, which features two people with severe disabilities as the heroes, and that led me to talk to Scope, and I've been with them ever since. So Scope, if you want to throw a few quid somewhere, then by all means do that for us.
Wonderful. And we'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. Ben Elton, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, I'll banged on as I will, but I hope that makes sense. Really nice to meet you both, and I hope we do something else down the road.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to that extract from the new podcast, All British Comedy Explained. To listen to the full interview and hear Ben talk about his formative influences as a comedy writer, his misgivings about Blackadder's Christmas Carol, which bit of The Young Ones he wrote at the last minute while everyone else was at the pub, and much else besides, just search for All British Comedy Explained wherever you get your podcasts. And Ben's book, What Have I Done?, is available wherever books are sold.